Hey, everybody, this is Lee Strauss and Tim James from Spaced Out Radio. We are here tonight, and it is Friday night. So, you know what that means. We got a whole weekend to just screw off and have a good time. Anyway, we're here tonight with you all to have a good time. And tonight we got Jeannette Tulippe on, and she's written 3 really cool books now. If my phone didn't just go off on me. She's written a book called The Spark. What Do They Want? I imagine that's about aliens. And The Unseens, which is stuff that we're going to talk about tonight. And also the UFO and Bigfoot connection. And we might get into a little bit of that. We'll see where she wants to go. But she's going to take us on a ride. And we're going to have a blast with you all. Tim, do you want to start welcoming people in?
Absolutely. I could do that for you. All right. So let me just get to the top of the list because Lee just drops this on me like, let's just laugh and maybe he's the new guy. So let's make a mess out of this. All right. Holy cow. I'll start from the other way. Let's see who we've got going on here. So we have Space Area. We've got Kitty Cattywhack in the house tonight. Welcome to the show. And we've got Race Fan, of course, First Ranch In. How's it going? And who else we got going on here? A lot of stuff from Lee on here. Oh, Tim James is in the house. That guy's a bit of a nerd. Eternity Eternal, how you doing? Laura Lobbs, hello to you this evening. Mel WD40, Mr. Lube, Captain Lubester. He's making sure that we're lubing everything up. And
I got to figure out my pointing again.
Yeah, I know, right?
A can of WD-40 behind you.
Right there, right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like Dave says, you don't want to go into a show rigid. You got to be lubed up.
That's
and we
right.
got Cosmic Joe's Experiences. Welcome to the show. Jen Marie, she's in for the show as well. Who else we got? Search and Destroy. Welcome, welcome. Good to see you. And yeah, right about now, that's all I can see. So up to you, sir.
Back to me. Well, we're going to go ahead and throw the intro in. And I'm just happy that you're all here with us tonight. And here we go. Well, that's the new intro, guys. I hope you all loved it. I had a good time making it, so it was a blast. Anyway, yeah, it looks good. And I know Tim, he's always making stuff during the day and putting it up on Facebook, and I appreciate the heck out of the stuff he's come along with. It's a good time. If you guys want to check all of that stuff out that Tim makes, you can find that on Spaced Out Radio on Facebook. So check that out, please. Anyway, we're about to introduce Jeannette Tulippe in and get her story. And I'm excited to hear about the unseen realms and the unseen world, everything that's around us that we cannot see, but sometimes we can feel it. Anyway, here she is.
Hello, and
Jeannette.
thank you for inviting me on your show.
Well, thank you for being here. Thank you very much. I think we've been on Facebook around each other for the last probably almost a year, and
Wow.
yeah, I think it's been about that long anyway. So, and to see that you've written some books and some fascinating books, by the way, which I'm gonna have to get into, but yeah, I would love for you to tell us your ghost story, at least how it pertains to the unseen world and those things around us that we can't see.
Well, actually, it's really hard to define because I don't know. In so many of these instances, they're calling them aliens, but I have been dealing with interdimensional beings and I have authenticated photographs of them. Okay. So I'm not going to be talking about those tonight, although I have written about them, how they come through light and what role radiation plays in this, and how they manifest into a physical form. And in the spark, it's what they want. I write about what the human mind is capable of, the different heights, how it reaches contact, and so forth. So that won't be for tonight. Instead, I'm going to discuss my very first ghost encounter. And when I was younger, I was very, very highly psychic. And I was so psychic that it's interesting because I went to school, I went to parochial school, and the nuns there were housed in the military academy across the schoolyard. And one was so impressed with me, my immediate teacher, that she reported it to the head priest. And after she did that, then the attempted kidnapping started. And military, psychic, that kind of a thing. So, and the first attempt was actually made in the church itself that I attended. So I'm going to go on with the story that I have. And I was 17 years old. I was a junior in high school. And every now and then I would go over to my friend's house after school and we just talk a little while before I had to take my route home. And sometimes I'd have to use the restroom before my long walk home. And I would go into the restroom and I felt like I was really being watched. I couldn't figure out what this is. And one day I just whipped the shower curtain back and stared into the bathtub where a head would rest on the back of the bathtub. And I was expecting to see something, but I didn't. And this would go on all the time. And when later on in life, when I was tested in college, they found that I was able to perceive frequencies that most people could not. So either I can see things or I can feel things that other people can't. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. And so shortly thereafter of seeing this thing in the tub, she invited me and two other girls over to her house for a sleepover. So my mom dropped me off and we started putting our things where we wanted them for the next morning. And I was done. So I walked over to a chair that was by a sliding glass door and I tried to sit down in the chair and I felt thrust out of the chair. I felt like I was sitting on someone's lap. And I attempted this at least 3 other times. And I finally went over to my hostess, which was my friend, and I told her, I said, is there something weird with that chair? Have you ever noticed anything weird with that chair? So she said, no, I didn't. And so I said, well, it feels like there's somebody sitting in that chair. So she said, well, just, she was very cranky. And so she said, well, just sit someplace else. So I did. And so the evening started to move on. And so she gathered all of us around her. And so she said, I mean, she moved us to a table that was somewhere between the dining room and the living room. It was relatively close to a gas fireplace that was not on. And she said, we're going to play up table up. And I had no idea what that was. I never engaged in Wicca, the witchcraft, the occult, or anything in that period of time. So we all held hands, and she said we were not to break the circle. And we were to concentrate, and we were to say up table up. I thought it was hysterical. I mean, I'd never been subjected to this, so I couldn't help but crack jokes. That's just my nature.
Mhm.
And we started kicking the legs of the table to freak her out. And so she got pretty aggravated and told us to buckle down. Well, I still couldn't refrain. So I just kept it up. And I got yelled at an extra dose. And so I said, okay, fine, I'll play this game. And I started to concentrate. And I don't know, the lights in there just seemed to dim on their own, even more than they had been. And while we were holding hands, the table felt like it rose maybe 1 or 2 inches, and it was wobbling. And finally, it steadied itself. And you know that look you get when you don't move a muscle in your face, it's just your eyes that move, and you
Hmm.
turn your head slightly and you look at the person next to you. Well,
Yeah.
we all had that expression right on our face, and the table started to move higher. And there were at least 3 of us that looked underneath the table. And it was officially off the floor. And the table, I would say, probably rose to the bottom of my chin.
Wow.
And I think it only stayed down where it was because we were holding hands and there was that pressure on the table. So I'm there and I feel this pressure on my right shoulder. It's it's as though someone is actually in back of you pressing on you. And it felt like something was trying to enter me.
Hmm.
And I thought, no way. So I broke the circle and I took the hands I was holding and joined those hands together. And the person that was next to me, she her voice was breaking up. She was trembling. Then she started screaming murder, and she she was hysterical, and she fell down on the ground, and people were trying to get her up, and the hostess just started slapping her in the face again and again and again to bring her around into our reality, because she was seeing all of these things. And then uh, when she got some sort of composure and could speak coherently, um, we helped her up, and she and myself and another girl went to go sit on the couch, and above us was a big plate glass mirror that was about, maybe 3 foot tall by 4 feet wide, and it was framed. And sorry, I had a good dinner. And and the lady, the hostess across from us, was very stern looking. She said, "What just happened there?" So we started between the girl that had entered and myself, well, I said, I said I felt a pressure. Something was trying to enter me, and this other girl cooperated with me, and because I said, after it got done with me, then it moved over here to you, and
Mhm.
this is how it moved, and she validated every single thing that this thing was doing. So then the hostess that was, she was looking at us and the mirror was above her head. She was right across from us. So she stopped talking and her eyes looked like they drooped, like they almost almost like they get elongated, like her eyes fell down.
Ooh.
And she she stopped moving her mouth. It just stayed in place after the formation of her last word. And she didn't say anything. And we're like looking at her, and in today's language, I would say WTF. So we were just looking at her eyes, and we followed her eyes where she was looking. She was looking at the mirror above us, and the mirror was entirely engulfed in flames for the entire width and the height of the mirror. And the three of us were trying to evaluate if we got up, would it be worse? If we're like afraid to move because we didn't
Guess so.
know what was going to happen to us. And then the mom and dad of hers were in the den watching TV. So then the mom came in to check on us. And when she did, she came in and she noticed her daughter wasn't speaking. She just saw her daughter, and she turned and saw the mirror and started yelling, "Fire, fire, fire." And then, so she looked at the fireplace. There's no fire in the living room, no fire in the dining room. Checked everything in the kitchen, and there was no fire. So the weird thing is that she circled back around and went past through us, and then went to join her husband and started talking to him about it, and neither came out after that. So I'm thinking that they were probably familiar with that kind of stuff, and they wanted to see how it was going.
Yeah.
And then so finally, after that was done, we looked into the mirror and the flames were gone. So it lasted a good long time. It was really, and we were like, why were the flames over the three of us? And so my mom came to pick me up, and I got in the car, and she wanted to know how it went. And of course, you tell your parents all the things that they want to hear. So, yeah. And so,
Fine. Everything went great.
yeah, you want to live the next day, right? You want to go to school without any bruises and things like that, So anyway, so then I'm turning around, and I'm really quickly looking in the back seat. And then I'm taking my arm and I'm swatting. I'm trying to swat across the face. I'm trying to swat in the eyes. I'm just swatting. So she said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Something's back there and I don't know what it is." She didn't say anything. I mean, she was a rather stoic woman, very almost, I would say, a religious zealot, as a matter of fact. So anyway, we get home, and then I had the habit of going to sleep around midnight. So my parents would take off every now and then and go visit the neighbors and play cards and have coffee and things. And then so I was laying there on the living room floor playing my vinyl and just enjoying myself. And I was looking at the windows. There was a window on either side of the fireplace. And on my left, I No, I never took drugs. I don't drink. And a harlequin mask came in through the window and kind of like did like this, back and forth. And it was the happy face. And I thought, well, that has to be good, right? And then and then it backed up and went out the window. And then in the other window on my right, the sad face came and it became dominant and very large and came closer.
Mm.
And then it went out of the window. No, like I say, I can pick up frequencies, and what it is my brain works like an ovulus, and it translates frequency, and
Hmm.
so it gives it like an image. So that's what I got. So anyway, I I'm I'm wondering, well, what's going on here? And then so I'm hearing this noise in the kitchen, and we have a built-in booth with a fairly large table. On the opposite side of the table are wood Pennsylvania Dutch chairs.
Mm.
So I'm hearing him squeak on the floor. And I'm thinking, are those the chairs that are moving? So I get up and it sounds like more than one is moving. I mean, squeaky fast across the floor. So I have two points of entry to get into the kitchen. So I'm looking in one of them. And I don't see anything. Everything's in place. And then this keeps going on. And then I go into the other point of entry and I'm hearing them loud and fast, and they got worse and they got heavier. And I look in the doorway and I don't see anything moving. So I said, okay, fine. I went over and I sat on the cupboard. I sat there for half an hour looking at the clock. Nothing happened. I get down off the cupboard thinking maybe it's over. And there they go again the minute I leave the room.
Hmm.
So I'm afraid now. I mean, what can I do to control this? I have no way to control it. When no one has control, we all get afraid, right?
That's
So
right.
yeah, I go down and it's time for me to go to bed. So I go to get cleaned up and I go to bed. So this is happening just about every night now at midnight. So whatever was in the house is following me.
Mm.
So it came home with me. Okay. And we eventually found out what that was, and I'll tell you later. So anyway, it's in the house. So this is another evening, and this time my parents are home. But like so many UFO incidences and abductions, your partners or whoever else is in the house, they don't wake up,
Hmm.
you know. And my sister is sleeping in the other room, and she's on the opposite wall of the bathroom. So I'm in the bathroom, and the doorknob starts turning,
Hmm.
but the door is locked and it's rattling and shaking, and the door is flexing because it's being pulled and pushed. I looked under the door where I would anticipate that there would be feet. And instead, there was a lighting that was a shadow lighting, almost as if you would say it was a shadow person.
Hmm.
And the carpeting would actually depress where the feet
Oh,
were. It
wow.
lifted his feet up and down. And the thing is, in case you don't know, light has mass
Mm.
and mass has weight. And so it takes up space. So and then this horrible thing would run up the hallway. You could hear it, and it would run back and tear the door apart. And I was so afraid. I could hear my own blood coursing through my ears.
How bad.
Yeah. And so I caught throughout the course of its appearance, I caught a glimpse of it. And what I found was that in the light, it looks like a shadow person. In the dark, it looks whiter and wispier.
Hmm.
So just so long as you can see it. I mean, whatever it takes to invoke as much fear as it possibly can. So I was so afraid, and the thought entered my mind that if it went into your sister's room, would you come out and help her? And I said yes, because I mean, I didn't know what I would do to combat it. You know, I had no idea, but that was my decision. And with that, it left for a brief moment of time, and it went back down the hallway. And it never entered my sister's room. And I opened up the door quickly and went into my bedroom, where it continued to pound and pull on my door. And I got down on my knees and I prayed that this gift I had would be taken away.
Mm.
And I still have brief moments with this gift. Like, a woman, we were going to buy this woman's home. She calls up on the phone, and I described to her, um, um, after I get off the phone to my husband, what her yard looked like, that she had a dog, what her dog looked like, what the inside of her home looked like. And I was 100% correct. And another woman had a strong thought at work, and I said, I know what you're thinking about. She said, what? I said, you're thinking about your home at Christmas. And I went on to describe the whole inside of her house, including her knickknacks. And she started yelling and screaming and saying, you've been in my house. And I thought that was a kick because I didn't like her anyway. And I figured if I acted like that, she'd stay away from me anyway. So that was good. Yeah. So anyway, I would do like a number of different things. And 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 when I was a kid, I used to be able to move the hands on the clock a little bit faster. I'd speed up time because I was all done with my classwork and I wanted to get out of school early. So I just messed with the clock. There was I like myself and this other girl were like the smartest kids in class. So we got done early and we're like, man, I'm blowing this joint, you know. So we got out. So that's what happened. But what that thing was, the hostess and her family did some research on the house, and they found out that a man had murdered the boy in the bathtub.
Mm.
They found his dead body in there, and the guy in the chair was the murderer. That's what
Oh.
happened.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So I've
There's
got
no
a quick question for you.
Yeah.
When you were back in school, you were mentioning that people knew that you were smart and a little bit different, like your teachers.
Yeah.
Were you ever tested?
I
Like cognitive tests, where they take you into another room and then they run you through a bunch of questions and that sort of thing, and maybe showed you some flashcards and that stuff, sort of thing.
No, not that ESP. I've never been ESP tested, and I wouldn't do it now because I'm aging and I have other issues. But I have a genius IQ, and
Mm.
so I think that's part of it. Also, I see the military is very interested in these people, and I have been chipped.
Mhm.
So,
Oh,
and I use both sides of my brain simultaneously, and to solve problems. I'm able to. And so there's other group of people like, God, I can't think of it. It's in LA, where they're making all the technology there. And they had a project to protect destiny. And they gave, because they knew there's reason to believe that I'm a hybrid.
hmm.
And because I had my DNA tested and a certain percentage of me is an unknown.
Hmm.
And there's no landmass associated with it. So the government has been keeping track of certain people,
Mm-hmm.
and they figured a certain amount of them would join the military. And they, in order to get both sides of the brain to communicate with another, they gave them 1 microgram of LSD.
Oh.
And and with training that allowed them to communicate with the aliens or interdimensionals.
Mm-hmm.
And so they downloaded information, but a good many of those people committed suicide because what they learned was just too much to bear, about our future and what the plans were for us overall. And so I think I've been contacted and I've been able to communicate a lot. And I've taken those photographs that are authenticated.
Mm-hmm.
I have different things in my house and so forth and so on. It's been really an e-ticket ride. I've been really, really traumatized by a great deal of this. And it's only now that I'm starting to settle down and not almost shake all the time, because from
Wow.
what I've seen and what I've experienced, and it's sad because my husband's experienced a lot, and I'm sure he's repressed a lot. And he was in bed one night, and he was asleep, but he was trembling, and he was saying, "They're hurting you, they're hurting you." He's seen it. I don't know what they're doing, but it's just bad news. And then I've come back with bruises and fluorescent markings. It looks like a tube was put in my nose, and a number of different things. And in one of those, I swear to you, one time when it was believed I was taken, that I saw, I'm going to call it a lucid dream, but I saw at least 4 to 5 guys that looked like black ops outside
Mm.
my wall. And even so much at one time as to have a porthole open up in our bedroom. And I've been told that they can direct portholes. And I guess our technology says that what they do is they identify your DNA. And so, and they can target an individual.
Hmm.
But I don't know if it was them with this porthole at this one time or something else. But we did see crap go over our house, and it was as simple as a Cessna, but I did see it start to cloak. And
Oh.
I saw a black helicopter cloak at our property, and it cloaked, and it not only cloaked, but it went soundless. And the military was extremely, extremely interested in that area
In the
that I
area
lived
that,
at
okay.
for 12 years. Yeah. Yeah.
Gotcha. Tim, do you have any questions real quick or?
No, I'm listening because I'm completely riveted to this. This is awesome. But okay, actually, I did have a little bit of one. So when you said that, when you were a younger lady and you were at home
Mhm.
and you got on your knees and you were praying for them praying to God to have that your
To have this
abilities.
taken away.
Yeah. So that ended up coming to fruition that a lot of it was taken away, or do you still have
I
all the
I still have some, but I can't. It's not like on cue. Like I used to go down the street and I used to point to a car and I used to be able to give you full descriptions, names, everything. Um, People in the car. I mean,
wow.
and I remember I would see differently at night. Um,
Mm,
my vision was different. Like I can't do it now. And besides, I've had my lenses replaced in my eyes, so because it's just aging. But when I was
understood.
younger, I would go at night and I'd look out, and it was very much like night vision. Like the whole scene, the darker gut, the whole scene would light up in orange,
Hmm.
and I would actually see better at night than in the daytime.
Hmm.
Wow. So
Yeah.
I'd be remiss without asking the second part of this question then.
Mhm.
Do you actually regret asking for that to happen, or has it made life easier for you or a little more difficult not having that much ability or that many senses flying around inside of you anymore?
Well, I yeah, I do regret it, but actually it's to have this is very socially isolating
Hmm.
because there aren't people that can identify, there aren't people that understand
Right.
because they don't have the genetics. They don't have it. So they're blind, but you look like them, and then they become afraid of you because
Mm.
what all of a sudden one day I had like 5 cups of coffee, I whacked out, and they have no control over someone like that, you know?
Right.
They
Right.
because they can't compete. They can't. And
Hmm.
so those are my thoughts.
Yeah, that makes total sense, actually. Yeah, I guess coming from you, obviously, it bringing those puzzle pieces together. It's like, oh yeah, I kind of go
Okay.
give my head a little bit of a slap and go, well, of course, that seems logical,
Okay.
but
Right.
feet on the other or shoes on the other foot, it would be like, okay,
Hmm.
yeah, now I get it for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other? I'm
Um,
here. Mhm.
well, yes. So my question is because of this one incident, this kind of drew you into the paranormal, and then your whole mind was expanded to things like Bigfoot and UFOs and all this other stuff. Is this kind of like where it began for you? Was this ghost or this haunting incident that you had?
Well, I wanted to know why. And I was I was tired of being frightened. And so you know what? I'm gonna get on my raincoat and I'm gonna go into the storm because
Mm.
I'm gonna stand this. I'm gonna get wet. My hair's gonna get all screwed up, but I'm doing it. And I did. And I joined the occult because the occult answers so many questions that the standard church is just completely lame. And I ended up at one point at a tiny little church in the country where I used to live, and people were asking for direction. And I started speaking one day, and everybody was so happy that I came because I explained things that their pastor never could.
Hmm.
And so they were happy, but I don't know. I forgot kind of like where I was, but
I was
you know, I
asking
want,
go
yeah,
ahead.
go ahead. No, you,
No, I was just saying, yeah, I was asking if the haunting like was the first incident or the first
yeah.
foray into it, and you were
Well,
saying how you
no, it
got raised.
wasn't.
Okay,
It
gotcha.
it was kind of a start, and I had some life-saving instances too as a result. This different thing. But the first thing was when I went into the occult and I was to do a ritual. And when I did this ritual, because I sent a picture, so I'm fully capable. And so, anyway, and I did the ritual, and I was in a very heavy, thick nightgown because it was almost my bedtime.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was standing next to the couch, and I never follow directions anyway. So I had more stuff on the table than I should have because I throw a little bit of my creativity in there. What the heck? Let's have a spin. So I put
Right.
the candle on the table and I said the words, and but the thing is recently I purchased a double terminated crystal that was from Egypt, and it had a cabochon garnet on top of it, and it was wrapped in silver. And the thing is, a lot of the crystals from Atlantis made their way to Egypt. Excuse me. And so this crystal was on the table. And when I was saying the words, I heard this incredible hum, and it sounded like a beehive, very loud. And this was a new development we're in. The windows were perfectly sealed. The seals were good. Nothing was old. Everything was closed. And the candle flame shot up 1 foot.
Mhm.
And then it would okay, so like it's straight up. And then wherever I was, it would lay down and point to me. Wherever I was, it followed me, literally followed me in the room. And
Wow.
and my gown was blowing and showed my form. It was blowing against the couch. The wind was so strong in the room.
Wow.
And what I found out since then was that because I've had people ask me, why does fire follow you? And I'll walk around a fire or whatever. I mean, even against the wind, and the damn flame points to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had that witnessed, and that has to do with your electromagnetic spectrum, your aura.
Okay.
And it's for some reason it acts like a magnet, and it just attracts flame. And then what else is it? Oh, the humming. People are saying that the humming in the like around UFOs and all that stuff, because I mean, I don't know where you're at, but there's a percentage of this that's definitely interdimensional.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, so I address all that, and I tell you about manifestation and the whole thing. But anyway, the hum was actually, because of the words and what I was doing, opened up and created a dimensional rift.
Oh, wow.
And that rift, after that, my whole life turned to shit. I mean, you talk about
Oh
fear.
yeah.
Holy God. I mean, the stuff that happened, including with, I started trying to figure this stuff out while I was going to college. I mean, I was like freaking busy. I was working 18 hours a day, had 2 kids, and going to work. I mean, it was a zoo. And then so I go to this Unitarian church to figure this out. Now listen to this. So I'd been there a couple of times, and the head of it was a male. Okay. So he gets up there. I mean, I hadn't had exposure to this stuff. This is how I broke into it, to be honest. And then so he gets up there, and he starts talking about things and whatever. And then all of a sudden he starts zoning. You know what I mean by zoning? When you
Zoning out.
just stare off into space and you don't look like it's like you would do remote viewing. It's the most focused concentration you could have. You're
Mhm.
aware of things around you, but yet you're actually seeing this event at the same time. It's 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 unbelievable how concentrated you are. But anyway, he's doing this, and he looks like he's looking at the back wall. And what did he do? And he said, well, I went out into the desert, and I saw a crashed UFO, and it was kind of like at an angle, and where it crashed, he said there's a bunch of rocks. And I'm thinking UFO, right? And so he says, and then I get out of my car, and he's walking funny on stage. He's walking like, when he's talking about this, he's walking like he's in a trance.
Mhm.
And he says there were 3 of them, and the craft was little, but they took me into the craft. And then he said, I got out, and I didn't remember anything. I didn't remember how I got home, although he got in his car and he drove home. No, here's the kicker. Okay, so I'm thinking, okay, that's wild. I'm trying to find answers, and all I'm getting are more questions. So I go over, and what is he doing? Oh, anyway, it's time to call. It's time to make everybody shake hands with everyone else, because he had everybody turn around in the pews and stuff. And then after that, then we all got up and we were to shake hands with him.
Mm-hmm.
So then he holds my hand, and I'm not the fainting type of a person, but
Yeah.
I caught myself and I started to go down.
Oh.
And his eyes turned completely black when
Mm-hmm.
he touched my hand. I mean, black. Now, I know that they're saying that the aliens have black eyes, and some people are saying that they have a lens on them, because I happen to know what the eye looks after that point. That was relayed to me by a visitation, I think. But and also too, in the Mammoth Caves in I think they're called Mammoth in Kentucky. But they did an experiment with people who had an illness, and they brought them in the caves, and they found out after they were there for a time, and just like the black-eyed children, when they took the people out, their eyes were completely black. They had no white to the eye. And that's what happens when you're in a very dark place, very dark. And then so when he did that, and then afterwards, and then he had somebody grab me, they pinned me to a wall in the church. And then he ran his hands, I mean, like maybe 4 inches away, along my spinal column while I was pinned. And that's where all your spiritual energy flows, is down your spinal column. So he was sensing it.
Yeah.
And there's where we go, guys. That's how I got into it.
Wow.
Gee, holy.
Let me hold on to my chair here. Holy cow.
I know it.
Exactly.
I know. You need like a potty chair right there. I know.
That's awesome, though. I mean, seriously. I mean, you know, I've heard tons of stories from different people, obviously, and stuff, and their first experiences and how they got into stuff. But yeah, that's got to be right up there with some of the best. That's for sure. Holy moly.
Yeah. Make you sweat blood.
So you sent me this picture earlier today. Do you want to get into that and talk about what that is?
Do I have to?
We don't have to.
I think that's a big negative, Lee.
That was in the property in Oregon.
Okay.
That's where we had all the UFO and Bigfoot activity.
Okay.
They used to be on previous Indian land. And again, the radon issue, as I have found out. I
can show everybody the picture too, and then we can come back and talk about it.
I was doing, now my husband, I have to appreciate him, because he stayed with me through all this, and he's very tolerant.
Yeah.
And he respects me, and he understands my intelligence. Okay.
Gotcha.
So I am very grateful, and he brings humor and life to me. He brings joy.
That's a good thing.
I need it bad. So
yeah.
anyways, what else does he do? But anyway, he went out, and he said, Jeannette, he said, I just thought this was a bunch of baloney, this orb thing and everything. So he started photographing orbs, and one of the things we photographed a couple of times was very, very interesting. And I actually knew a gentleman in the Secret Service that found it very interesting as well. But what else did we do? Oh, I said, you know what? Let's see what really happens. I'm going to do this really simple thing, this real simple ritual. And, something happens, I don't take a picture. So he's the one that photographed this.
Okay. So let me go ahead I'll go ahead and show it. Let me just pull this off the screen real quick, and I'll put that up. And there we go. So we just put it up there and shared it. Yes. So you want to explain to us what this is? So this is an orb that's up against a tree, is what it looks like.
Why it's flying past it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because it does look
Because
like it
I
has
was,
movement.
well, if you were to print that out, I mean, because you're getting too much light feedback.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to print that out, that is absolutely freaking amazing. And this was analyzed by somebody that was an orb expert because she printed it out. Okay, because you're not going to get much looking at it like that.
Yeah.
And there's
Yeah.
actually something hard inside of it. So this is like a light that's around the object.
Gotcha.
And so what I was doing, we had so many creepy things on that property. But I was doing a banishing ritual. And that damn little thing was getting its tail out of there.
Wow.
I
That's
gotcha.
quite big, eh?
Don't do that
Yeah.
Canadian stuff to me.
Hey.
My grandmother would say that all the
here
time,
we
and I
go.
started yelling at her. And she said, "Why are you yelling at me?" Because I said, "I thought you were hard of hearing because you always said, hey."
That's
I
quite
didn't know, it's just a
large.
little kid, you know.
Don't you go American on me now.
Okay, well, I won't. Oh, that's cool because I mean I've seen, well, what I figure I've seen is with Dave and myself, we've gone up to Dave's Sasquatch spot and well, been out to both of them, but the friendlier one of the two, we've been out there, and I think it was our second time out, and I was standing talking to Dave, and they were little tiny, like we don't have fireflies and stuff up here where we live, but they were little tiny ones, and they were purple and I think green, and they were flying behind Dave, and then they come back across, and I'm like, holy cow, I'm seeing little orbs. And Dave's like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff up here. So yeah, I haven't ever seen anything that large because everything I was looking at was, maybe the size of a little M&M candy.
Or
But
maybe, yeah.
yeah,
One
so
of the,
that's
yeah,
pretty cool.
sometimes that's consciousness. Sometimes that's the form consciousness takes as an orb because it's the ideal shape to travel. Yeah, in space. So you can project your consciousness, then wherever it decides to land or set up house, then it manifests a form that it chooses. Yeah.
Understood. That's cool.
That is cool. And that one seemed like, it radiated a lot of light away from its center, away from its core. So that was pretty interesting there for sure. And it looked bigger than what a laser would be. So somebody can't just say, well, that was a laser, because lasers are pinpoint, right? And this thing is like, I mean, really, it's like that. So it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, this is an interesting story that I heard about Canada. And this guy got cancer, and it was pretty bad apparently. And they said, you know what, you got to come in tomorrow. So apparently he told his friends about it. And so what he did is he set his phone on video that night. So all of his friends, I'm sure, wished him well and said what they had to do to try and get him well, and said prayers and things and stuff like that. And he played it back, and he saw all of the orbs swarming around his body. So that, because your thought is an energy, anything you do, wishing good, wishing bad, it's an energy, and you project it out. And that was all of the energy, all of the thoughts from his contacts. And then he went to the hospital the next day, and there was no trace of cancer.
Yeah.
Holy.
Yeah.
That's
I've heard of
amazing.
things like this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, you have
Amazing.
power. Yeah.
Well, before we go move on any further, is there anything else that you would like to tell our audience? We've got about 7 minutes, actually 6 minutes left in the show tonight.
No, I want them to sleep all tonight.
The first story, I don't know. That was pretty amazing. Pretty scary stuff. That's for sure.
I just say that we just keep going with the show.
Just right over the top of Dave.
He'll be okay with that.
Yeah. No. I don't
Very
think so.
interesting. Very interesting stuff. I've thoroughly enjoyed this.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Definitely. Where can people find your books?
Well, they have to overlook them as spellings because I've had so many arguments with publishers. It's unreal. They're going to have to go on Amazon, and you have to put in the whole name of the book. And the first book is a semi-disaster because there was a red light that kept appearing in our yard at 9 o'clock at night, and it hung at the same elevation. Every time it appeared, my book disappeared, and we had so many Bigfoot instances and everything going on in the house that were absolutely terrorizing us, that my husband had to come out and cover me with a firearm after I went out in the backyard to investigate. So we were going through all this. So, it's a little shaky. And like I said, the book disappeared and I could never recover the information. It disappeared 3 times when the light was there. I had George Filer of Filer's Files that wanted to do an investigation on it, but I was so busy I declined it. Major George Filer. But anyway, so then there's that. But the other books like The Spark, It's What They Want, you have to put in the full title, and The Unseen's Engineering Maleficence in Man Revisited. The whole thing has to go in because Amazon just doesn't like to bring it up because there's a lot of technology in the book.
Yeah.
It's not speculation. I mean, I'll give an incidence, but I also back it with science to try, because there are those minds that are very, very rational and want everything spelled out. So it's pretty, it's pretty much there. The science is there to back up what I'm saying.
Gotcha.
Okay.
And the last book was Bigfoot UFO, or the Bigfoot and
No.
UFO connection.
No, the most recent book is the Unseen's Engineering Maleficence and Man
Okay.
Revisited. Yeah.
I gotcha.
Okay.
I gotcha.
And then,
So what I can do for everybody is I can post the thumbnails of those books on Element 115 and Spaced Out Radio. That way, if anybody's interested, they can find them there.
sure. I tried to write it in a very easy reading, simple kind of a way for just anyone to grasp it. Just recently, I had one of my friends on Facebook. I explained it so she got it. You know what I mean? She understands the sequence, right?
Gotcha.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much, Jeannette, for coming on. We really appreciated it, and we loved your story. And it sounds like you have a ton more in the bag that we didn't get to hear. So picking up your books is probably the best way to get to know you better right now. Anyway, thank you very, very much for coming on. We all appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
All right, I'm going to put you back in the green room. Okay, so what do we got coming up next, Tim?
We've got Dave Scott and SOR, and I think he has our Keith Anders on this evening.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's
the Woo train is
fantastic.
pulling in.
Right. I just have to say, too, thank you for the super sticker, a super chat that we got tonight. Appreciate that a lot. You guys, you ever want to donate, you're not just donating to Element 115, you're donating to Dave Scott and Spaced Out Radio. So that's where the money goes. Just to let you know. And guys, we don't have ugly swag, do we, Tim?
No ugly swag.
None at all. If you want to underwear with somebody's face on it, I'm sure you can find that too.
I've got some.
That's terrific. Anyway, guys, yeah, that was welcome to the show. Gave us 99 cents, so we really appreciate that. We do. Anyway, guys, we are going to hit the outro, and we will see you. I won't be here next week, by the way, so we're going to have to skip next week's show. Forgot to tell you that, but that's I'm going to be gone next Friday, so there you go. All right, guys, have a safe and lovely week. Tim, anything for him?
Everybody, just have a great weekend and enjoy the next half of the evening with Dave Scott.
Right on.